podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, November 28th, 2021. This is episode 1848. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Codecademy. Join over 50 million people learning to code with Codecademy and see where coding can take you. Get 15% off your Codecademy Pro membership when you go to codecademy.com and use the promo code TechGuy. And by UserWay.org. UserWay ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. And by BetterHelp. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/techguy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. I'm your tech guy for you, for your meal tonight. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number. Here's where we talk about all things tech, whether it's PCs or Macs, Linux. We also talk about laptops, desktops, smartphones, of course, smartwatches. They go along with the smartphones. We could talk about all of the various gizmos and gadgets in your life that have chips in them, which is pretty much, as we're learning, thanks to the chip shortage, everything. You can't buy a car. You can't buy a refrigerator. I'm still waiting for a stovetop. It's all in short supply. Good news, though, of course, and it's interesting to watch this happen. It's just economics, because chips are in short supply. Chip companies are going, we got to make more chips. It's not that they're making fewer. It's just the demand is huge, and so the chip companies are doubling their build out. They're building chip factories everywhere. Samsung just announced yet another plant in the United States in Taylor, Texas, $17 billion to build a chip plant. In fact, globally, chip makers are projected to spend about 50% more than before the pandemic and twice as much as they did 5 years ago, $146 billion this year. The people who make the chips, because they see this demand. Now, you know what that means, probably. In a couple of years, all of a sudden, all these factories are going to come online, and there's going to be a glut, which is good. I hope there's going to be a glut, because that means prices will tumble, right, when there's an excess supply. Now, maybe demand will double, too, though. That's part of the problem. Demand. People are buying more and more stuff with chips in it. I always say I'll talk about augmented reality. That's almost a joke, when I say we talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, real reality. It's because there's not much augmented reality out there. What is augmented? Well, you've seen VR. We've all seen that. That's like the Oculus Rift or the Quest or the HTC Vive. Those are those visors you put over your head. They've got two screens in them very close to your eyes. They're tied into a computer, or sometimes they have a computer built in, as in the case of the Quest. And you move your head. The Quest, these devices know that your head is moving, so they change the view. You look to the left, the view slides to the left. Look to the right, the view slides to the right. So it's as if you're in this virtual reality space, mostly used for gaming. You could use it for other things. There's some movie theaters that you can watch a movie on a screen, and you can see other people there, so you can look around and see the seats. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but okay. People do that. But mostly it's gaming. Augmented reality is a little bit different, because augmented reality, you still are looking at the world. And there are a couple of ways to do that. You could do it in glasses that you could see the world, but they display on top of the world, a heads-up display, if you will, information. So imagine you're wearing a pair of glasses, you're looking down Main Street, USA, and you see little pop-ups to the left and right with each store, and maybe you've told the glasses you're looking for dungarees, and it would show the stores that have dungarees and the prices, that kind of thing. They're augmenting, they're adding to existing reality. Another way to do it is to take the traditional VR glasses, goggles, where you can't see through them, and add cameras to the front so that on the screens you can project the world around you. That might actually be an easier solution. Just it looks dorkier because you got to have this big helmet on, or visor on. But as you're walking around, you don't run into walls because you can see. And by the way, they're getting close to that. You can see what's going on. If you had some cameras, you would see the world. It'd be like you're watching the world on TV. Just what we need, right? One more way to kind of separate us from the reality of the world. But that's what companies like Facebook, now Meta, are all about. It's like, oh, you don't need the real world. We're going to make a better fake world for you, and you'll spend all your time there. That's this whole new metaverse that Facebook's. That's why they renamed themselves. Well, that and another reason. People hate them, so maybe we change the name. People forget we're Facebook. They call themselves Meta because they're going to be. And you've maybe even seen the ads. Have you seen the ads? They're weird. They're like a cartoon with a tiger in the jungle and the toucan bird, and it's like you're walking through a cartoon space, and it says something like "The future brought to you by Meta." I hope not. It's not. I don't know. Do you really? Is that what we want? I think it's fun for a game. I think it's fun for recreation. But the idea of putting these things on, and then even as you walk around, you're not really seeing the real world. You're seeing a TV screen real world with stuff on it. That's what Apple is planning to launch next year, according to the rumor mill. Ming-Chi Kuo, who's very good usually about these rumors. He's an analyst who is in Asia and has a good connections with what they call the supply chain, the people who make this stuff. And so it's easier to get information from them, these Chinese factories, than it is to get it from Apple and Cupertino. Apple's, tight-lipped. But these factory workers aren't making much money, and they're easy to bribe. And so you can get information out of them. So Ming-Chi Kuo says he thinks Apple's going to launch their first AR, augmented reality headset, 1 year from now, late 2022. It's going to look like, you're going to look like a steampunk kind of goggly wearing kind of person with these. They're saying they're going to get dual 8K displays. That's pretty good. That's very high res. You need high resolution, right? Because you're right close to the screen. They're going to acquire these from Sony, 4K micro OLED displays from Sony. Oh, wow. Micro is, that's the hot new thing. The micro OLED displays. There are going to be two processors, one like the M1s that are in the Macs currently, and then there'll be another processor that'll handle all the sensors. It looks like it's sealed off, so it's one of those augmented reality things where you've got cameras, and as you walk around, the cameras are relaying your world around you, so you're watching TV as you're walking around. It'll do virtual reality as well as augmented reality. I think there's a problem here socially. What do you think? You see somebody walking around with these, they have cameras on those, and they're recording everything they see. I think people don't like that. I remember when Google came out with something similar, maybe, a long time ago, like 6-7 years ago, Google Glass, people were getting beat up. You'd go in a bar wearing these things, and people go, "Get out of here with you and your dumb camera on your face." And I think we're even more privacy aware these days. So it'd be interesting to see the response. Maybe we'll just get used to it. Right now, if you go anywhere where there are people, especially in a city, more than half of the people walking around are staring at their phone. They're not looking at the world. They're looking at their phone, right? So now you can look at your phone without looking down. You'll have these silly goggles. I don't know. This is from the analyst's report. Apple's AR headset requires a separate processor as the computing power of the sensor is significantly higher than that of the iPhone. Wow, that's pretty fast. For example, the AR headset requires at least 6 to 8 optical modules cameras to simultaneously provide continuous video see-through AR services to users. You know, you might be able to see more than you can see with your eyes. In fact, you will be. You might get infrared data, heat, thermal imaging, sensing. You might have a field of view that's 180 degrees, you know, complete peripheral vision. I don't know. Be interesting. This is what they're predicting for next year. Next holiday season. 8888 Ask Leo. Everything I talk about goes to the website, techguylabs.com. Those are our show notes, so you don't have to write anything down. That's free, no sign up. Just go on in there, techguylabs.com. If you hear something and you say, what was he talking about? I'll put some of those articles up that I was just talking about. techguylabs.com. Call on...
Little Blondie
there. Call on Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. Hello, Kim.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. Good day to you, too. You are here to answer the phones, even though you probably have a bit of a turkey hangover. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I'm not much of a turkey person, so I do not have a turkey hangover.
No. Oh, well, good.
I'd rather have a lasagna.
I have a ham hangover.
You have a ham hangover?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a lot of ham. Been eating ham. You know what they say? Eternity is one ham and two people. That's eternity. And we have. Yeah, it took a while, didn't it? Sunk in.
I had a salad like that yesterday.
Yeah, it just keeps on going.
Is this salad disappearing at all?
So, who should I? You know what I'm saying.
Let's see. Mark in Santa Ana, following up with you about a Chromebook. You recommended a Chromebook for his daughter.
I'm always nervous when did I blow it? Okay, well, let's find out.
You might have.
Thank you, Kim.
No, line two.
Hello, Mark. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, so we got the Chromebook, and we tried to download Word on it, and it says, as of last month, Microsoft doesn't put Word directly as an app on Chromebook. So
as of last month, they never ever did. Word is for Windows and Mac. So what they're talking about is the Android version, but you don't want the Android version anyway. You want to use the web-based version, which is at office.com.
Yeah, but we tried that, and of course, we were out doing something, and there was no internet. It said, nope, can't use it, because, just like, remember the old Xbox thing where the Submariners weren't allowed to play Xbox?
Yeah, maybe. I hope I didn't give you the impression that the thing about a Chromebook is it's really designed to use Google services. So you can use Microsoft Office on the web. I'm surprised they don't have an offline version of that, but, that's Microsoft. They're not going to help Google. They feel like, it's pretty clear they feel like Chromebooks are a threat to their hegemony. So
we're going to be there wherever our customers are.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So I think you certainly can do offline word processing with the Google stuff. I have to look and see. I mean, this is new to me, so I'm going to have to look and see. Let's see. It says how to access Microsoft Office on a Chromebook. The web apps, but they don't offer those anymore, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that was it.
Go to office.com, sign in with a person. Okay. But this is the question. Can you do it offline? You can view files and do basic editing with office.com if you're signed in. Yeah, no offline use then. And really, a Chromebook is, frankly, I mean, this is what Microsoft tried to tell everybody with those silly ads. Remember they went to the Pawn Stars and somebody tried to pawn a Chromebook, and the Pawn Stars said, "Oh, forget it, you can't do that." And that was the main complaint, that Microsoft brought up. So naturally, Microsoft's going to make sure, even though you can easily add offline capabilities to your web apps, they decided not to do that. Guess why? Why do you think? Again, they don't like Chromebooks. So I apologize. I hope I didn't give you the wrong impression on that. But
no, it's okay. I found actually late a couple nights ago, I found a ThinkPad 11e Yoga for normally $1,029, and it was being sold for $429.
Good. Yeah, ThinkPads.
Now
never buy a Lenovo. Sorry? Yeah.
Now it's $400.
Because the truth about Lenovo is they never sell for retail. list price.
Yeah.
They're always discounting in some form or fashion. That's a good price. So you bought that for her and she's happy?
Well, I bought it a couple nights ago, so I'm sure it wasn't. I think I bought it Thanksgiving night,
right?
And so, and it went down by $30 already. So I'm thinking of canceling and reordering.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to use Microsoft Office offline, I guess that's probably the right solution. I think a Chromebook, the idea is you're going to use Google Docs, which works perfectly well offline. I'm disappointed that Microsoft has decided not to make that possible. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, but because as you said, we tried it. We tried it. We turned it off. It just stopped and said, nope, you got to be online. Yeah. That's annoying.
And it was so cool because it had OneDrive on it, and that worked. But because it didn't have the not Office, but the Word app on it, it couldn't go to anywhere. Yeah. And therefore, you couldn't do anything offline.
So there are other Office choices besides Google Docs that'll work, and they'll work offline. But I guess Microsoft, for competitive reasons, has decided, we don't want to be too good on the Chromebook.
Yeah.
Does she have to use it for school? Is that why?
Yeah, it's also everything for school is all. Basically, they give you Office 365, the $99 a year version. Right. So she's got five different availables to her. So she's already got the
it makes sense.
Laptop,
so
she'd
prefer to she's got it for free. She'd prefer to use it. I understand.
Yeah, and everything she has is on OneDrive, and I just tell it to download everywhere.
Yeah, that's convenient. Well, there you go. That's how Microsoft sells Windows.
Yep. Yeah, but anyhow, I just thought I'd let you know. I'm not.
Thank you.
And believe it or not, I tried calling you both on the phone, cell phone, and the home phone. I got in both at the same time.
Wow, it's a miracle. It's a Christmas or maybe a Hanukkah miracle. Hey, it's good to talk to you. Let the word go forth, Mark. I appreciate it. Don't buy a Chromebook if you need to use Microsoft Office. And I'm glad you were able to find that IdeaPad. There are lots of inexpensive computers out there. Chromebooks tend to be the least expensive. There's no Microsoft tax. You're not buying Windows. And they're usually lower quality. I think, you're going to get a better system probably if you buy the IdeaPad, better screen, better keyboard, better trackpad. What you give up, you get the complexity of Windows for a student whose school expects her to have Office. I guess that's, par for the course. For a lot of other people, I think it's a bad idea just because Windows is going to be less secure and more difficult to maintain and keep secure just because it's more general. It's a more general purpose operating system. That's why I tell people to get Chromebooks, but obviously not the perfect solution in every situation. 8888 ask Leo. I'm kind of surprised. I knew Microsoft said they were going to stop offering the web app, which is disappointing, but that they would also not give you some form of offline editing. That's an easy thing to do on a Chromebook. So, the fact that they don't do that is clearly anti-competitive, right? They just don't want you to buy one. They even now make it Chromebook competitor. So there you go. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Did you ever drive the Lucid Air?
I have not yet driven the Air. I've sat in it a couple of times. I haven't had a chance to drive one yet. They don't have them in the press fleets yet. And when I was in LA a couple of weeks ago, they didn't have any available then. Hopefully next time I'm out in California, I'll get a chance to get into one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to see people, who have them, download or give their reports on Reddit and stuff.
People I know who have driven it are very, very impressed by it.
Yeah. It sounds like a nice car.
Yeah. Of course, it's also fairly pricey too, but at least the initial versions of it.
Right. I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm waiting. I got 2.5 more years. I got till February 2024 to figure out. There'll be lots of choices.
Yeah. Well, and should have, if you haven't gotten it yet, you should soon be getting an OTA update that will improve your DC fast charging capability.
Oh, good. I'm waiting for the Blue Cruise. I guess they're having trouble with or whatever they call their cruise. Is it Blue Cruise?
Blue Cruise, yeah. They were apparently. I talked to them. They were having some issues with the OTA process for that. And so they're holding the cars shipping from the factory have that enabled from the factory.
Right.
But those that are out in the field already, they're holding off on those while they sort out the OTA issues.
Yeah, they may end up having
which is good.
Yeah, no, get it right. Don't mess up my car. Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm not that. I mean, I don't do that much driving, so it's not critical to me. But I just wanted to play with it.
Yeah. So this week I was supposed to, I was initially scheduled to have a Nissan Pathfinder this week that was going to be delivered on Wednesday. And I got a call from the fleet company the day before, said, hey, the Pathfinder had to go into the shop for something. We've got a Chevy Tahoe and a BMW X4M competition that we could send you. Which one would you prefer? And I looked at the weather forecast because the week before I had the BMW M3 competition.
Oh, fun.
And I looked at the forecast and said, is that X4 on summer tires or winter tires? And Han says, no, it's still on summer tires. I said, I'll take the Tahoe. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Snow has come to the great
summer performance tires. And well, even if there's no snow, just cold weather. Don't mix very well because the rubber compound on summer tires, when it gets below about 40 degrees, it gets very hard and you lose most of your grip. And so they don't behave very nicely.
Right. Well, I know what you mean. It's like in the 50s here. It's terrible. Just teasing you.
Hey, I'm used to it. Hey, we don't have wildfires, so
That's true.
I'll take some
we
snow.
didn't this year. We survived. I feel like
That's true. You didn't have very many this year, did you?
We snaked through. We snuck through. All right, we'll talk in a couple. Here we go. We're getting ready. Getting ready to play the music. Coding is so much fun. It's my hobby. I love it. But it's also, if it's your career, a great job. There's huge demand for people who can code, great pay, great benefits, a chance to participate in the booming economy. I think you should learn to code. I think everybody should learn to code for whatever reason. Our show today brought to you by the best place to go to learn to code. If you want to become a programmer, there's been literally no better time than right now. With Codecademy, you can learn to code on your own terms. Over 50 million people already know that Codecademy is the best way to learn to code because Codecademy not only teaches you job-ready coding skills, but it also helps you build unique projects for your portfolio. And believe me, that's important. That prospective employer is going to look at what you've done. You can also earn certificates at Codecademy. You can prep for technical interviews. Really, it's everything you need to get that great job. Lots of people saying, this job I have is terrible. They call it the Great Resignation, right? People are not, and rightly so, putting up with low-paying, awful jobs when you can get a great job doing something you love. With Codecademy, you can learn at your own pace. You can get qualified for in-demand jobs. You choose what you want to learn, from building basic websites to artificial intelligence, anything else you could want. And no matter what your experience level, and I love this about Codecademy, day one, you'll be writing code. It'll be real working code, and you'll be writing in minutes. Everything you write, when you press that submit button, is checked. Gives you a chance to learn, to make mistakes, to correct those mistakes. You'll be learning coding in all kinds of languages. Python, very popular. HTML and CSS, of course, for web design. SQL for database design. JavaScript. They've just added a whole bunch of Swift. If you want to code for Mac or iOS, Swift is an amazing language. And here's a nice thing. If you don't know where to begin, there's a quiz. Take Codecademy's Programming Personality Quiz. It's not a math test. It's not testing your knowledge. It's asking you about your personal philosophy, what you dig, what you like to do. That way you'll get tailored advice and course recommendations based on your strengths and interests. I took it. It was really fun. They said, you'd be good at computer science. Lisa took it. They said, you should study R, the statistics programming language, because she is a statistics genius and have figured that out. When you do Codecademy, you'll get instant feedback. Your code is tested. When you press the submit button, you'll always know if you're on the right track. I like that because it's an interactive platform, which also makes it fun. You're doing stuff right away. You'll get to build a portfolio. You'll get a certificate of completion when you finish the course. That helps you put that on your LinkedIn, makes you much more marketable. I think it's time to land your dream job in web development or programming or computer science or data science or, any area of technology. If you want to learn a new skill to build websites, to troubleshoot tech issues, to transition into a new career, you need Codecademy. I use Codecademy all the time, and their cheat sheets are fantastic for any time I want to brush up. Join over 50 million people learning to code with Codecademy. See where coding can get you. Take 15% off right now, Codecademy Pro, when you go to Codecademy.com and use a promo code TechGuy. I told him I want to talk about Codecademy on the Tech Guy because so many people are listening who want to get into programming, or they want their kids to study programming and they want to know where to go, and Codecademy is it. So don't forget the promo code TechGuy at Codecademy.com, 15% off Codecademy Pro, and it's a great way to learn. Codecademy, Codecademy.com, promo code TechGuy. Love these guys. And this is, people ask all the time, how should I learn? This is the way. Codecademy.com. And don't forget the promo code TechGuy so they know you heard it here. That really helps the show. Thank you, Codecademy. Now back to the Tech Guy. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Time for Sam Abuelsamid. He is our official car guy, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. He's a podcaster. His Wheel Bearings podcast is great for anybody who's a vehicular aficionado at wheelbearings.media. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you this week?
The snows are coming down in Ypsilantis.
It is. We got about 3 inches last night. So
that's not bad.
Our first accumulation. We actually had a little bit of snow a couple of weeks ago, but it didn't stick. It was still not quite cold enough yet, but now it is.
Well, I thought this would be a good time, actually you thought, and I agreed, to talk about getting your car ready for the winter months as we get colder and colder. Now, for an electric vehicle, do I need to do anything?
What I'm going to talk about is primarily generalized to all types of vehicles. It doesn't really matter if it's gas or electric. For electric vehicles, there's not really much you can do. The main thing that you want to take advantage of, if you live somewhere where it's cold, is the preconditioning system that all EVs have.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you can do is usually either in the app that comes with the car or in the car itself in the screen, in the settings, you can go in and you can tell it, if you have a daily commute, let's say you leave at 8 o'clock every day to go to work, or, 7 o'clock, whatever time, you can go in and tell it, on these days of the week, I'm going to leave at 7:30 and I want the temperature to be 68 degrees in the cabin. And, usually if you have an EV at home, you're going to have it plugged in overnight charging. And, heating up the car or cooling it down in the summertime, same thing applies in the summertime, takes a lot of energy from the battery. But if you set up these preconditioning systems while the car is still plugged in, it will actually preheat the cabin for you so that when you get in the car at 7:30 to drive away, instead of waiting a few minutes for the car to warm up like you would with a traditional car, it's already been warmed up for you. And your seat heaters have been turned on, and maybe your heated steering wheel if you have one.
And you're doing that while you're plugged in, so it's not drawing down the battery.
Right, because it takes a lot less energy to maintain temperature than it does to raise it or lower it.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing you want to take advantage of with an EV. But there's a lot of other things more generally that it doesn't matter what type of fuel you use that you should be thinking of if you live somewhere where this time of the year it gets cold, or like here in Michigan, for example, where we got a few inches of snow last night. One of the most important ones is your tires. And
so I don't have snow tires on because we don't get snow here. Are you talking about that, putting on snow tires?
Yeah, or winter. More specifically, we call them winter tires now because they're not necessarily just for snow.
You don't want to drive around in snow tires. That's hard on the road,
right?
And stuff.
There's basically 3 classifications of tires. You have summer tires, which are typically, most of the time these days, they're only used on performance cars, on sports cars and other higher performance cars, and they give you the best traction on dry pavement. They're great, for handling and braking and everything else. And then there's all season tires, which are sort of a jack of all trades and master of none. And that's what you find on probably 85-90% of all new cars is all season tires.
Yeah, here in California, that's probably all you need. Yeah.
And then there are winter tires. And one of the two big things to consider with tires, of these three different types of tires, is there's the tread design. And if you're watching the video stream, you can see over my shoulder a graphic showing an example of all-season tires versus winter tires. There's the tread design and how the tread blocks are shaped in order to be able to bite in and grip into the snow or sea or ice or whatever else you might have. But the other thing is the actual rubber compound that the tire is made of. So these different types of tires are formulated from different rubber compounds. Summer tires are really good in warm weather, but when the temperature drops below about 40 degrees, the rubber actually gets really hard and loses a lot of its grip, and they don't work very well. So even if you live someplace where maybe it gets cold but it doesn't snow, you probably want to take off those summer tires in the wintertime and replace them with either all-season tires or winter tires. Because winter tires, on the opposite side, are they're formulated for cold temperatures, so the rubber actually stays pliable. Because the way the rubber grips the road is through its pliability. And so it's a different rubber formulation that stays pliable and maintains the grip on the road. And also when it's, that and the design of the tread blocks itself helps to bite down through the snow and ice to give you better grip. Now, in the chat, I think it was Phoenix asked about, Phoenix Warp asked about why not just keep the winter tires on all year round?
Yeah.
Well, the same thing, just as that rubber compound helps you to maintain grip in cold temperatures, it also wears down really fast when it's warm out. Mm-hmm. So that's why, if you've got a car that has, that you're going to swap tires on, you don't want to, once it starts to warm up in the spring, around March or April, you don't want to leave the winter tires on there because you will wear them out really quickly. And so, what I've done in the past on some of my cars is I actually buy a second set of wheels and have the winter tires mounted on those. And then round about Thanksgiving time, mid-November, I'll take off the summer tires, stack them in a corner of the garage, and put on the winter tires, and then reverse that process in the spring.
Oh, that's a lot easier. Just change the wheel instead of trying to change the tire on top of the wheel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's actually what I just did for my daughter.
Isn't that expensive,
a couple of weeks ago.
Does everybody back east do this?
In some parts of the country, yeah, a lot of people do it.
Wow.
But, keep in mind, yes, you're going to spend a few $100 on a second set of wheels and, a few $100 on a second set of tires, but you're only using those tires half the year, so they're probably going to last you twice
that's a
as
good
long.
point. That's a good point.
So
you're investing in your future.
Yes, and you're investing in your safety.
Yeah.
Because especially when it gets cold, you don't want to lose traction. You want to maintain good traction.
Can you buy special wheels for winter, like so that they don't? You wouldn't want chrome, right? You want something.
No, that doesn't really matter. Any wheels will work. Just whatever you can find a reasonable deal on.
Isn't salt on the road a big problem for cars?
Generally, the wheels are made of aluminum, and so the salt, it's not really going to corrode the aluminum wheels.
Yeah.
You can get steel wheels too that are cheaper, and they're painted, they're anodized, so the salt's not really a problem so much for them as either. So the salt is more of a problem, for car bodies and things like that than it is for the wheels.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Do I have to take the oil out and put them up on blocks? No, because I'm going to drive it.
No, you don't have to worry about that on your Mach-E. Although, if you are changing your oil, around this time of year, depending on if you live in northern Minnesota where it gets really, really cold.
Is there winter? Is there winter oil?
There's not so much all season oil, but you might want to consider going down a step in the viscosity, the number that they apply to the oil. That's the thickness of the oil. You might want to get something that is a little bit lower viscosity.
Sure.
So if you live in International Falls, Minnesota, where it can get to 40 below zero.
Yeah.
You might want to consider, getting a 0 W10 or 20 or something like that, just so it doesn't turn into jello.
I presume that if you live in these tough environs, you already know what to do. This is part of the lore handed down from father to son.
Some basic things. Keep a blanket, in the
candles
in the trunk of your car, just in case you get stuck
somewhere. A couple of energy bars.
Yeah, some bottles of water.
Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse, wheelbearings.media. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.
I think this is we pay more in taxes here. The housing is more expensive, but we only need one set of wheels. So, there you go. Wheels can be expensive on a fancy car. That's something to think about when you're buying a BMW. You're gonna have to buy another set of wheels.
My daughter has a Toyota 86. It's a little sports car, and she invested, I think, about $800 or $900 in a set of snow tires, winter tires, and an extra set of wheels. And she got them from a local tire shop. They mounted them up. I brought them home, and I put them on for her. And I have her summer tires stacked in the corner of the garage. And
You're a good dad. You're a good dad.
And then in the spring I'll do it again.
Yeah. Do you want to? I should get that out of the shot and put the clock in here so you can see how much time you have left. We'll let the wheels keep rolling.
Okay, so Jarvis Laurie in the chat room is asking, is a broken spring on a front strut dangerous for winter driving on a rear-wheel drive vehicle? Jarvis Laurie, it doesn't matter which wheels are doing the driving. A broken spring is dangerous.
Not good.
If you have a broken spring, please get it to a suspension shop as soon as possible. Get it replaced. That's not a good idea to be driving around on. Phoenix Warp also suggested cat litter. That's actually a really excellent idea. Throw a bag of cat litter in the trunk or in the back of the car, so that when you do get stuck, which will happen, you can take a couple of handfuls of cat litter and throw it in front of the tires. So and have a little shovel, or at least make sure you've got gloves so you can scoop out the snow in front of your tires, and then throw some cat litter down there, get a little bit of extra traction. Also, some sand or some gravel will work very well for that. Zip ties and duct tape. Not sure what Twisted Mister is suggesting there, but let's see if you have. Do I out of sync says, bet you have a compressor, impact wrench, and a hydraulic lift too. I do not have a hydraulic lift. My garage actually is fairly low. There's not enough room to lift up a car in there, but I do have a compressor and a wrench, and I've got jack stands, so I can jack things up, and I've got a creeper. So I can crawl around underneath the car, so that helps out. Let's see, toad sloth. Yeah, you definitely don't want to sit on that spring. Absolutely not. What's the best way to store unused tires? Lying on the side, hung somewhere. That's Chevy guy. I just stack them up in a corner of the garage, or sometimes in the basement, just on their side. That's actually probably better for them. If you have somewhere where you can hang them, that would, taking the load off of the tire, off the tread or the sidewall, you probably don't want to leave them standing up, because they can get flat spotted, just, from the load on them, unless you're going to rotate them once a week or so. But if you put them on their side, they'll be fine. But if you can hang them up, you can do that if you have space for them. Can I comment on tire chains for cold and ice? Yeah, tire chains are definitely very helpful. In fact, in some areas, if you live in some mountainous regions, places like the Rockies, or in Canada, in Quebec, in northern Quebec, a lot of times they mandate that you have some chains. So they can definitely be helpful. They can be a hassle to put on and off, but they can definitely be helpful for getting you out of a
when we drive up to Tahoe, situation. There's guys waiting by the side of the road as you get higher up, ready to put on some chains. Thank you, Sam. Stick around to the top.
All right. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy 8888. Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. Paul in Columbus, Ohio. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Leo. How you doing today?
I'm good. Do you have an extra set of wheels, some extra tires, ready for the winter?
Well, I'm one of the blind guys, so I don't drive, and no, we don't have an extra set.
Yeah, that seems to me, I don't remember ever doing that, but okay. Sam is always prepared.
Well, I remember a lot of people having what they called snow tires with the the metal pieces in,
the little studs in there. Yeah. What can I do for you, Paul?
Well, today, two things. I'll try to make them quick. I'm upgrading my eeros. I've got I think it was the original ones 5 years ago. Yep. And they work great. I do have faster internet now. And now they had a really good sale for eero on the website. And I was looking at the Pro 6 and the 6. And it's like, I don't really need to overdo it with Pro 6 probably. I mean, I tend to do that, but it's really not necessary. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were. It's interesting because I think that the 6 actually has more of a range.
It might well. The Pro 6 is what they call tri-band, and as far as I know, the difference between the Pro and the regular 6 is the tri-band versus dual band. So,
you don't have that back channel then?
Well, you always have the back channel. You always do. That's part of the eero magic, or any mesh router's magic, is you have a hidden back channel. The tri-band simply means you've got, there's 2 bands for Wi-Fi. Right. 5.4 or 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and tri-band just means you get 2 5s, which can be nice if you have a lot of devices. I think that's maybe where you would need it more, if you had a lot of devices. Now, the thing that's interesting to me, and I don't know, I'll have to look and see what eero is going to do, is that we are already heading towards 6E, which has a 4th band built into it. And I'm wondering what their plans are. It may well be, I wouldn't be surprised if you got a brand new eero if they had 6E capability, but hadn't turned it on yet. That's something to inquire about.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's the nice new stuff next year.
Yeah. Well, that's the only reason I mention that is maybe caution you if you don't have to do the upgrade. It probably is time if your eeros are 5 years old. But if you don't have to do the upgrade, or if you're not in the market for a Wi-Fi router right now, maybe waiting to a 6E might be worth it. And none of this, by the way, 6E, none of that is a benefit to you unless you have devices that can use it.
Exactly.
But newer phones and so forth are coming along. Linksys says they're going to sell 6E systems on their mesh sometime this year, I think. So I don't, maybe that's because of for international customers. So you might call eero and say, what are your plans for 6E? And then they would give you some idea of whether it'd be worth waiting. Because maybe, it's next month, then maybe that's why they're on sale. I
was going to say, it is a really decent sale, too.
Yeah. CES is coming up in January. This is where you probably would announce that. But very often at the Consumer Electronics Show, you announce, and coming this fall, in other words, a year from now, 6E, in which case it's probably not worth waiting. And again, if you don't have 6E devices, there's no benefit at all.
Right. So. Okay, the other question is regarding porting a phone number to preferably Google Voice. I had a UMA system that I had ported my AT&T number years ago, and I only kept it because it was a number that I've had for literally 45 years. And it's a little sentimental more than anything. More crap calls on them more than anything.
Yeah, that's a long time to have a phone number. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I had UMA for like 5-6 years, and the Telos box died, and I didn't want to buy a new one necessarily.
Right.
My wife's been bugging me. I need a number for it.
Yeah, so, UMA uses some proprietary hardware. And if it dies, it's expensive, I'm sure, to replace.
So I was trying to figure if I could port the darn thing to Google Voice. I don't see that it's available to do that. Then they say this. I was doing some searches and found that there's this number barn and maybe a couple other places that you can port your number to, and then you can port it from there.
An intermediate?
Yeah, kind of an intermediate. But there was also some jujitsu stuff about going into getting a temporary cell phone.
Yeah, see, the issue is this UMA line is your landline. That you've had it for 40 years. We didn't even have cell phones 40 years ago. So the problem is getting.
I had transferred an AT&T number to that 5 years ago.
Okay.
To the UMA. Yeah.
Yeah, but UMA is considered land as well.
Yes. Right. Okay.
So you might have to do an intermediate port. Google. It sounds like Google Voice will only port from a cell phone provider. So I guess you could do the phone barn. That's what phone barn's all about. Is a place to stick it. Let me just look. Porting your number. It needs to be a mobile number. It looks like before you could port to Google Voice. All of this is complicated because it's an FCC rule requiring porting. They wouldn't do it otherwise, right? If the FCC didn't say you have to, phone companies say no, you can't have your number. We own it. Go buy.
UMA will port it to the Talkatone that they own also.
Oh, okay.
But then the Talkatone ends up being as expensive, and UMA isn't really expensive for that matter. But it's depending on which service you get.
So I'm looking at the rules from Google. You cannot submit from a VoIP telephone carrier. So that's the problem right there. It has to be from a non-VoIP, and I guess UMA, of course, is voice over internet, so it's VoIP, as would be Talkatone.
Yeah.
So I think Talkatone's not going to solve that. I think you're going to have to do an intermediate port. That's crazy. But I guess
maybe I'll just be strong and say to heck with it.
Keep that number. Don't get rid of it. You still, keep it somehow. Put it somewhere. Stick it somewhere. UMA won't get rid of it. I don't know what happens if you don't continue to pay for the UMA service.
I'll look at the Number Barn or one of those places again.
Number Barn. I love it that exists.
Yeah.
It's a place to store your number intermediately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I would imagine it says inexpensive phone number parking. But I would bet Number Barn is perceived, works with wireless, landline, and VoIP providers. So that's the question. Can you get Number Barn into Google Voice? Or else Google Voice could say, well, no, that's not a. Yeah. You can always do forwarding too, and that's another option. You can have people call that age-old line and forward it to your new Google Voice number. But for that you'll have to put it somewhere like Number Barn.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one way to save it. I understand this. I can see this sentimental. I wish I had my childhood phone number.
I actually have that one in my mom's number that when she passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to lose those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat room, Twisted Mister, saying Ting, which is a MVNO. I actually have a Ting account. Says you could port it to Ting for a couple bucks a month, and they'll just hold it. Ting is a mobile carrier. So that's another option. You could just, yeah. And I guess CJ's saying this is because not all phone numbers support SMS. That's interesting. Does UMA support texting? Probably not.
I don't know.
Yeah, because they expect you to have a kind of old, princess phone on there. So
right, exactly.
So that's probably the issue with Google Voice. They want that number to be text compatible. That makes sense. So maybe that's the real rule: is texting has to be supported by whatever number you're going to port into Google Voice. That would make sense. Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you, Paul. Stay warm. The winter is coming. I didn't even really think about it too much, except Sam scared me with all that snow talk. La, 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 la. It's time for Sam Abuelsamid. How was your Thanksgiving? Did you have a good one?
Yeah, our older daughter came over and we had dinner. We had some short ribs and polenta and stuff for dinner. It was very nice. That
sounds really good. Polenta.
Yeah, it was great.
Why did I think of polenta? We made a double batch of mashed potatoes. That's a lot of mashed potatoes. Oh, nice. So where'd your older daughter end up? She moved. I know she moved out your way, right? From
yeah, she just lives over in Ann Arbor.
Oh, nice. So now she's close home again.
Our younger daughter's in Portland.
So now, she's back in Portland.
Yeah, she moved back to Portland.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know for a while she was living with you because Portland was crazy. So,
yeah, they decided she and her partner decided to move back to Portland in July. Things had settled down a bit.
They love it. Portland's a great town.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's nice to have family nearby. Both my kids are near enough, so I get to see them, which is good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll leave it to you for 7 minutes and 35 seconds.
All right. So let's see. We had a couple of questions come up in the chat earlier. One was about in-road charging, and when will we see that? That's something we probably won't see widely for a long time. So the idea here is, you can have wireless charging. Most modern smartphones support wireless charging. You put it down on a pad, charges up. You don't have to plug anything in. There are wireless charging systems available for EVs. There's a couple of companies. Witricity is one that makes a wireless charging system. They have some aftermarket stuff available for a few different EVs, not a whole lot. They're pretty expensive. They've done some pilots with BMW, and they're doing one with Genesis right now in Korea to test out charging. Where wireless charging is likely to have at least in near to midterm, a bigger impact is in things like transit buses. And that's where we'll probably see some in-road charging, because the cost of actually installing that infrastructure for doing the charging is really, really expensive. And the maintenance, and the wear and tear on that. But an interesting application for it would be for things like transit buses, where, especially at some of the bus stops at certain, ends of the routes or certain parts of the route where the bus is maybe stopping for 2 to 5 minutes. And you can actually, there's a couple of companies that have demonstrated wireless charging at up to 200 kilowatts. And, if the bus, is running, say, a 10 or 15 mile route around a city, and a couple of different places along that route, it's stopped for a few minutes at a time. You can keep that bus charged up pretty much all day long, and just keep it running from that, each time it stops on one of these wireless charging pads at the bus stop. So that's where we're more likely to see it than for normal passenger vehicles. Another question that we had, somebody was asking about aluminum wheels, and whether aluminum is more brittle than steel wheels and more likely to crack or fracture. It is true that in general aluminum is a little bit less tough than steel, and that can pose a problem. Certainly if you hit like really heavy potholes or curbs, you can pretty easily do damage to an aluminum wheel. We've had a couple of aluminum wheels get bent over the years from potholes or curb strikes, and sometimes it can be repaired. More often than not, they have to be replaced, and that is a problem compared to steel wheels. Manufacturers are using aluminum wheels now because they're lighter, reduce the weight, and because it's unsprung mass at the corners. That also helps to improve the ride and handling capabilities of the vehicle when you have less weight at the corners. But you also have more flexibility in design with aluminum wheels that you can't really do so much with steel wheels. Steel wheels, as I said, are heavier. They are tougher. They'll withstand more abuse, which is why you find them a lot on big trucks, heavy trucks. But they are more durable than aluminum wheels. However, one of the interesting things that Honda in particular has done with aluminum wheels in the last few years is they actually designed some of their aluminum wheels on their vehicles to fracture specifically during certain types of crashes. There's a crash called the small offset rigid barrier test, which has they've started to do in the last 8 or 9 years. And this test, the vehicle is crashed into a rigid barrier with a 25% overlap. So instead of driving it straight into a concrete wall, they hit just the front one corner of the vehicle. And that's actually much more common to real-world crashes. If somebody drifts across the center line, and you're much more likely to have that sort of offset crash situation if you do have a crash. And oftentimes in those kinds of crashes, what happens is the vehicle's colliding. It'll push the wheel and the suspension back, and sometimes back into the passenger compartment, and can cause some really severe injuries for occupants in the vehicle. So manufacturers have started to design their structures to better withstand that kind of crash. But one of the things that Honda also did is they designed their aluminum wheels so that in that type of crash, the wheel will actually fracture and absorb some of that energy, and it won't intrude into the passenger compartment. So it helps to improve safety. So even though it may be a little less durable in some cases, it will definitely help in that situation. Let's see. Steve was asking about the best mid to large sized SUV to buy today. I strongly recommend either the Hyundai Palisade or the Kia Telluride. So I'm assuming when you're saying mid to large size, you're probably thinking a larger three-row SUV. For most people, something like the Telluride or Palisade are really excellent vehicles. Very, you get a lot of value for the money. They're very roomy. They look good. They ride good. They have very high quality. What else? The Ford Explorer is also really good. You might also want to check out the Chevy Traverse. Those are all quite nice vehicles to drive in. Let's see. The new Nissan Pathfinder is also another one that's very roomy. It's got some really nice features in it. One of the nice features in the Pathfinder is the second row seats. If you have car seats for kids and you have those mounted in the second row seats, you can actually flip the whole thing forward. Not with the kid in there, of course, but for access to the third row. So if you want to get into the third row, you don't have to take the seat out. The whole seat is hinged from the front. You can release the back, flip the whole thing forward without removing the seat, and have access to the third row. So it's very convenient from that perspective. M. Heiss says, here in LA, we have electric buses on what is called the Orange Line, a busy busway route of about 20 miles. There are retractable pantograph things on the roof that extend only at one end of the route to charge the buses. Yeah, pantographs are another solution that works really well. So this is basically a terminal that can extend up from the roof of the bus. They look
like scissor lifts.
To contact some wires.
Yeah,
like a scissor lift. And then you get conductive charging, which is much more efficient.
Sam, I'll see you in a couple of hours.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. 8888 Ask Leo. Outside that area, you can use any VoIP service, Skype out, for instance, anything that'll call a landline, and it shouldn't cost you anything because it's a toll-free number. 888-827-5536. Website is techguylabs.com. That's where the show notes go. Thanks to James DeRuvo. We even put audio and video from the show after the fact up there. This is episode 1848. So you can go right to today's show if you have a, I want to get that link or whatever that is. We also have a chat room, by the way, where the Team Tech Guy resides. A bunch of very smart people who help me answer your questions. That's at irc.twit.tv. You can use a web browser or an IRC client and go there. irc.twit.tv. Also, Club Twit members. Twit is my podcast number. Podcast network. Club Twit members have their own Discord. You can go in there too. Web 1211 is in the IRC chat room. He said he's an UMA customer and he ported from an MVNO. They gave me a cell number that my old number forwards to. And then if you go premium, you can text. I guess that's kind of the same answer, which is if you have UMA, it's seen by Google Voice as a landline. But if you port it over to a cell number, like Ting, which is an MVNO, then you can forward the old number to that. Or you don't have to port it, but you can. But once you've ported it, then you can port it from there to Google Voice. Or you can use Phone Barn. I think that's hysterical. I never heard of that one. That was our last call of the hour. Brand new call now from New Jersey. Andy's on the line. Hello, Andy.
Hello, sir. First off, happy birthday. I think
Thank you.
Coming up.
It is on tomorrow. Yeah.
Old man.
I am now. Yeah. I'm officially a senior citizen. I get the discount and everything.
You're a citizen.
I can go to the early bird special at Denny's. I'm so excited.
You sure can. So I had a question for I had a question for you. I was wondering if it was possible to run Windows on the new M1 Max, because of course they're not using Intel chips anymore.
Oh, therein lies a story. So the M1 processor, Apple's Silicon processor, is based on an ARM architecture, which is very different from Intel's x86 architecture. And of course, Windows loves x86, but there is a version for Windows on ARM.
Oh, is it really?
Yes. Now, you can't install it. Apple no longer offers a way to install Windows on the Mac directly. Because I don't know why. They just don't. But you can run in a virtual machine, something like Parallels or Fusion, VMware Fusion. You can run now, but this is the trick. You can only run the insider version of Windows on ARM. And we actually learned this week why. And that's because Microsoft apparently made a deal with Qualcomm, which also makes ARM chips, that Windows on ARM would be exclusive to Qualcomm chips. That, in other words, Windows on ARM would not run on anything not made by either Intel, AMD, or Qualcomm. Those are the three chip families. And that means Apple's left out in the cold. So the real Windows on ARM version will not run on the M1s, and this is due to that exclusivity contract. Now, when we learned about this, there was also speculation, neither Qualcomm or Microsoft has confirmed, that contract, that exclusivity is probably running out soon. And at that point, you might be able to, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Microsoft offer a version of Windows on ARM. But because Apple doesn't do boot camp anymore, that was the technique that you could actually divide your hard drive in two, partition it, put Mac OS on one partition and Windows on another partition, Windows 10 or 11, and then boot into one or the other. You can do that with the Intel Macs, but you cannot do that with the Apple Silicon Macs. And I'm not sure why, from a technical point of view, you can't do that. I think it's more anti-competitive than anything technical. So Parallels, VMware Fusion, you can install that. You can download the Windows Insider version right now of Windows on ARM, and I've done that, and it runs. It doesn't run great, unfortunately, because it's Windows on ARM itself doesn't run great. But that's a kind of interim solution until at some point they offer Windows on ARM on other processors besides Qualcomm's. It's actually an interesting story, and I almost feel like that should be illegal, but I guess it's not. They kept it secret.
And I guess programs themselves, would have to be compiled for this, right? I mean, programs.
Yeah. That's part of the problem with Windows on ARM is a lot of the software available for Windows doesn't run on it. Because those also have to be designed for ARM. You hit the nail on the head. So even some of Microsoft, when I installed it anyway, even some of Microsoft's own built-in, like the calculator or something, I can't remember exactly, but wouldn't run because it's not ARM, it's an Intel calculator.
Oh, so, how funny is that?
Yeah. So it's tricksy. So the short answer, yes, but there's a lot of caveats. There's a lot of little extra but in there. You can't do it. Mike B is putting in our chat room an article from Parallels, which is one of the two most popular commercial emulators for the Mac. But I think it'll even work. We'll put that article up in the show notes so you can see what you need to do. But I think it would probably work with any emulator that works with Apple Silicon. So I don't even know if there are any others. Parallels and Fusion do. It was actually hard for them, and I can't get that working. It's M1, the Apple Silicon chip, is only a year old. And it takes a while for everybody to kind of go, oh, we gotta recompile, we gotta rewrite everything to work with this new processor. A surprisingly large number of programs do. There are very few gaps, but there are in some in the corners, and that's one of them. Do you need Windows, Andy? Are you a Mac user?
Well, I actually originally got a Mac because I wanted to be able to run both. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
technically, I guess the other way would have worked with a Hackintosh. But
it used to be, in fact, Walt Mossberg, who was the famous tech reviewer for the Wall Street Journal for years, even said the best Windows machine is a MacBook.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I got one. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, it was great, and you get the best of both worlds. You can't run Mac software on a PC, but you could run Windows software on a Mac. But those days are over. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
I was just like, oh, man, and this Mac is like 8 years old, and it's still working, but it's kind of hitting there.
Well, your old Intel will do it fine. And, it's funny because Linux users also, Linux developers are trying hard to get Linux running on a Mac. It's not exactly easy, but they have started to get there, and there are versions of Linux that will run on the new M1s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so really that whole thing really comes down to this deal. I think it's kind of shady deal that Microsoft made with Qualcomm. Say, yeah, we promise we won't make Windows available on anything but an Qualcomm processor. That's crazy. Hey, Andy, thank you for the call. Good question. Kind of, as usual with the technology, that seems like an easy answer. Oh yeah, sure you can, until you get into drill down into the details, and it's like, yeah, you can, but yeah, it can, but I think that's. Nobody's willing to say, that deal with Qualcomm is about to expire, but I think it is. I think that's why that story is coming out now. I would bet you Microsoft actually leaked it so that everybody would start to get ready for that idea. Oh, well, maybe we should think about, making our stuff available. The reason people want to do this is that new Apple Silicon chips are impressive as heck. They're, I think, leaving Intel and AMD in the dust, at least certainly in terms of power, processor power for wattage. They're very, very powerful chips using very, very little power, which makes them great for portables, just as it has been for the iPhone and the iPad. But it also means you can put a lot of power in a desktop, and it doesn't dim the city every time you turn it on. And you don't have all the heating problems that you might have with higher power chips. So we still haven't seen what Apple's going to do with their high-end desktops. They've released, iMacs and Mac Minis using the M1, but I think this spring we're going to see high-end Macs, powerful Macs, a Mac Pro, an iMac Pro, a Mac Mini Pro, using even more advanced chips with many, many cores. The rumors are as many as 64 cores, 64 processors on these things. And you wouldn't want to do that with an Intel chip unless you had a refrigeration unit to put it in. But with Apple, you can do it. So I can understand why Windows people are kind of looking over at the Apple chips and saying, boy, we'd love to, it'd be nice to run Windows on that. When can we do that? Damien's back at the controls. Big Pee-wee filling in for Professor Laura, our musical director. Thank you, Damien. Good to see you. Oh. Dan, also from New Jersey on the line. Hi, Dan, you're next.
Hi, Leo.
Hello.
From Route 95. I'm driving home after Thanksgiving from Rhode Island to New Jersey. And
I've made that trip so many times. That's so funny. I grew up in Providence. My mother's mother lived in New Jersey. Oh,
that's funny.
Yeah, isn't that fun? I've made that trip. Do you go over the George Washington Bridge?
It depends, or the Tappan Zee, which is no longer called the Tappan Zee. It's the Mario Cuomo Bridge.
Oh, how interesting. Are they going to change that?
There has been talk. Change it back.
Sometimes putting a person's name in there is a risky business. Now, I guess Tappan Zee was somebody. I don't know. But that
was a Dutch thing.
He was Dutch. What did he know? Yeah, Governor Malcolm Wilson Tappan Zee Bridge. So, I don't know. What can I do? I guess the Tappan Zee was a Native American subtribe of the Delaware Lenape.
That sounds better. I like it.
The Tappans were the tribe. The Z is the Dutch word meaning sea. It was the sea of that tribe. I always liked the Tappan Zee Bridge. I bet you everybody still calls it the Tappan Zee.
They do. They do.
Of course they do.
Totally.
No, you can say the Governor Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. Forget it. What can I do for you, sir?
So, I am having some renovations done in my home, and sometimes you have mentioned running, even though everything is wireless nowadays, there's still people who sometimes run wires for devices through the walls, and we're going to be like ripping the walls out.
Oh my God!
I know, well, exactly.
I have to say, highly recommend it. We didn't rip the walls out, but we had an attic and a crawl space that they could get into the gap, and so we had people crawling through our attic, dropping Ethernet down through the walls, because during COVID, the kid was home going to school over Zoom. My wife was working from home, also on Zoom, and I was sitting there in my underwear watching Netflix. We needed hardwired internet. So we put it in, and it was expensive, but boy, it makes a big difference for you, especially for things like that.
So I would be wanting them to is that the only thing that's left is Ethernet that needs to run through the...
Well, we didn't do this, but the practical thing would put conduit in there. If you were building a house, I'd put conduit. That's just, so you could put anything down there. Someday, maybe, in the year 2525, you'll want fiber optic cable in there. And if you put conduit, it's just easier to drop it through. But honestly, we put Cat 5e or 6 in there. That's fast. And, anything that could do a gigabit, I think it's going to be fast enough for some time to come.
Okay, that's good. That's one question.
Yes.
I have another.
Yes.
I'm subscribing to your service. I can't remember the name of it right now, where we pay for your podcasts. And
Club TWiT. Are you a Club TWiT member?
Oh, I am.
Good, thank you. Well, in that case, you get an extra 30 seconds. That's part of the deal.
Okay. Well, my follow-up question is, I don't know how to access the shows with no commercials.
Yeah. Probably inappropriate for me to do this on national radio, since it is, in fact, something that you pay $7 a month for to get ad-free versions of our shows. But there is a help channel Can you get in the Discord?
I did that once just to poke around a little.
Yeah, there is a help channel in the Discord. There's also a help page. But I'll give you the basics. Idea is when you join the club, you get an email with a special page just for you, because everybody has their own dedicated feed. On that page is all the shows with the feeds that are just for you. You can add those to your podcast client. I like Pocket Casts, but whatever you happen to use, Apple's podcasts or whatever. And then you'll get those ad-free versions.
Okay, I'll go back to that original email.
It should explain it there, yeah. I don't mind, because it gives me a chance to plug this.
I figured.
The people probably listen to the radio show go, what is he talking about? I have a podcast network. The show is part of it, by the way. This Week in Tech, or TWiT. Get it? Clever. Started it back in 2005. I was a younger person then. I didn't know any better. And one of the things we do, and as you see a lot of people do these days, it's ad-supported, but we also offer ad-free versions for a nominal fee. And I'm glad you're a member. Thank you, Dan. It really helps. The advertising for podcasts is up and down, especially during the pandemic. It's been really challenging. So it's nice to have a steady income. So thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for letting me plug it. And good luck on the Tappan Zee. Are you going to go the George Washington to the Tappan Zee today?
I don't know. Right now, the line ahead of me on my Apple Maps is red.
Oh, bad. Bad. Everybody's going home. I bet you.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, that's when we would do it. Actually, we'd be going the other way, New Jersey to Rhode Island.
Yes.
We'd be going the opposite direction.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to survive it, but right now I'm going to get off. And
this is when you want a car that has adaptive cruise control. I love it. It's actually on the. I won't buy a car anymore that doesn't have this, where you turn it on and it not only follows the speed of the car in front of you, it'll slow down, stop, and then start again. So it's perfect for stop and go traffic. You just, you have to watch what's going on, but you don't have to ride the accelerator like a nut job. Somebody says, take the car lane when the turnpike splits. Mike lives in Jersey, so he knows.
Oh.
Well, now that's some help you can use. Forget that. We should do the traffic guy show. Yeah. That's some really useful stuff. Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining the club. I appreciate it, Dan.
Okay, thanks
All right,
a lot.
have a great day. We're going to talk digital photography in just a second. Chris Marquardt is in the house. And we'll be answering, I don't know, we'll be talking about getting better pictures, I guess. Stay tuned. I've been really happy to talk about UserWay because their mission as a company really makes me feel good. Their goal is to make every website in the world accessible. You've heard we have many blind listeners. I'm very aware of the struggle users with disabilities go through trying to use the web. And I think for your business, it's important to consider their needs for a couple of reasons. One, three reasons. One, it's the right thing to do, for sure. Just because don't leave them out. Two, it's your legal responsibility. All websites are public entities, and the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that you are covered. You are regulated by the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, so you're legally required to make it accessible. Third reason, it's good business. There's 60 million users with disabilities who will use your shopping cart, who will use your website if you make it possible. The best way, UserWay. It has an incredible AI-powered solution that tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG guidelines with just one line of JavaScript. UserWay can achieve more than an entire team of developers. You want testimonials? You want references? Go to the website. You'll see some of the biggest names, the biggest companies in the world use UserWay. Coca-Cola, Disney, eBay, FedEx, more than 1 million websites use UserWay to make their site, their content accessible to users with disabilities. And I have to say, you may say, well, I can't afford Disney prices. Don't worry. UserWay is making these best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tools available to small and medium-sized businesses at an amazing price. But you always have the confidence to know if you scale, if you get big, if you get to be a Disney, UserWay will scale right there with you. UserWay fixes so many things that are problematic. Nav menus, for instance. Even sighted users have trouble with nav menus. Pop-ups are accessible. Vague link violations fixed. Broken links fixed. Your site will offer an accessibility layer with accessible colors, but still remain true to your brand. They don't adjust the hue. They just adjust the saturation and luminance. You'll get a detailed report of all the violations that were fixed. All your alt tags will be automatically generated by the AI, and it's so easy to use. With WordPress, Shopify, Wix, boom. It's cost-effective, easy to add. I think there's a plugin, actually, for WordPress. AEM, Sitecore, SharePoint. Even if you have a website, as I do, that's designed by, self-designed, you just add that one line of JavaScript, you're done. Let UserWay help your business meet its compliance goals, improve the experience for your users. They even have a free scanning tool. You probably should do this at least. Run that scanning tool to see if your website's ADA compliant. That's pretty important. Here's what the voice of Siri has to say about UserWay.
UserWay is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
So important. And it keeps you out of court. UserWay can make any website fully accessible, ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly and customize it to fit their needs. It's also a great way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's just the right thing to do. Go to userway.org/twit. It's really affordable, and we're going to even make it more affordable. 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. It actually costs us less than some of the fonts we use. It's really affordable. UserWay, making the internet accessible for everyone. Userway.org/twit. Give it a try today. And thank you, UserWay, for supporting the Tech Guy Show. In fact, if you want to support the Tech Guy Show, please do me a favor. Go to userway.org/twit. That way they know you saw it here. UserWay. Now back to the Tech Guy. We're going to end the New Jersey portion of our program and head all the way over to Hanover, Germany. That's where my photo guy, Chris Marquardt, resides in the Viewfinder Villa. He is our photo sensei at sensei, SENSEI.photo. Helps us all get better digital pictures. Hello, Chris. I can't really say Happy Thanksgiving because you guys you don't do turkey.
We don't really do have Thanksgiving.
No.
We have something similar. It's called Erntedank, which is also of giving thanks for the harvest.
It's a harvest festival.
Where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's a harvest festival, so we do have that, but it's not as big as Thanksgiving is in the States.
No,
We
Christmas.
don't do turkey.
Christmas is Germany. That's where Christmas was invented. Is practically
Tannenbaum.
Tannenbaum. You got the Christmas tree. You got the Christmas markets. Yeah. Someday, when COVID is over, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah. At this point, there are some Christmas markets, and I'd rather not see them do them right now.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. Let's talk photography.
Let's talk about taking better pictures. Actually, let's talk about after you take the picture, what's next?
Yes. See, that's a question I often get because photography is not just pressing the button and the photo is done. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, the editing is always makes them fake and is not the real picture. But honestly, every professional photographer sees photography as a process of multiple steps. So you take the picture and the camera will do its things, right? It will do some automatic handling of exposure, of contrast, of colors, saturation, that kind of stuff. And even with professional photographers, it's not a given that the camera pops out of the camera exactly the way you want it. So there is some editing in the process. And that's what I want to talk about today. There's two kind of different types of editing. The first one I call the basics, the stuff that I literally, for every photo I take, I will change or adapt the exposure a little. I will change the contrast of the photo, and I will look at saturation of the colors.
And you just do that for every one of them. Boom, 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 always.
Virtually every photo, and it's in your smartphone, in the Photos app, you have this little magic wand that makes the photo kind of snap into being nicer. That's often what happens, and that's the three things it touches: the exposure, the contrast, and the saturation, the colors. And I often, because I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to photography, so I want this. I want some control over these things, and you can do this too.
Because I think it's so tempting in almost every program to click that magic wand and just leave it at that. Can you consistently, as a
90% of the time, that magic wand is good.
It's all you need.
Most of the time, it is, yes.
So even as a professional, I know you're a control freak, but even as a professional, you look at it and you go, "Yeah, that's pretty close."
Yeah, but 95% of the photos, clicking that magic wand is fine. But let's look at a few photos, because the first thing is exposure. There's just going to be an exposure slider somewhere in your software. Play with that, fix it, maybe even exaggerate it. It's totally fine to have something overexposed, like in.
This is an example of where a magic wand would screw it up, because this is overexposed, nominally.
But on purpose.
And it's great because the sun is bright, and its background is white. And if you press the magic wand, it would kind of make it a kind of boring gray photo. So
right, or other photos might benefit from some underexposure, being dark, being moody. So the example on the screen here is kind of a front of a stove, but it's in a darkish kind of room, so it works fairly well. When we look at contrast, a misty photo is one that doesn't have a lot of contrast. And that might be the right thing for the photo. But if you crank it up, if you don't have enough contrast, there's nothing wrong with sliding that contrast slider to the right and contrast makes the dark parts of the picture darker and the bright parts brighter. So it gives it a bit more punch. And that's something, that's almost every photo gets a contrast adjustment here. Color saturation, same thing. Oh, by the way, contrasty pictures are night pictures are contrasty pictures. If you shoot a city photo at night, you will have those very dark corners that are virtually pitch black, and you have the bright lights. So you have this. The breadth of the material, whatever the camera can do, it will. It's really it goes into the extremes on the dark side, into the extremes on the bright side. And if the camera doesn't get that right, there's nothing wrong with getting that contrast slider and making it more punchy. And
this is a good example because the silhouettes, if you turn down the contrast, you might actually see detail in those people. And I like silhouettes just to be black cutouts,
right?
Sometimes, right?
Right, and that's what this photo on the screen. What that does is like it has these very dark silhouettes, but it's surrounded by so much light. So extreme contrasts. Again, if the camera tries to soften that, and you think that it might be better to get a bit more contrast, then yeah, sure, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Color saturation. There are pictures that come out a bit undersaturated, a bit lacking, like the grass is not as green as you wanted, or the red car in it isn't as red as you wanted. There's nothing wrong with playing with the saturation slider and maybe even overdoing it. That will bring out some of the colors, and it might oversaturate it, but if that's what you like, and if that looks good to you, then there's nothing wrong with that. So color saturation. Again, and then there's the second layer of edits, and that's the ones that I call creative edits, like making a picture sepia, which gives it this old-timey kind of look. You have a filter for that in your Photos app, or really overdoing something like saturation, or really playing with other tools that overlay textures on your photo. There's like really good examples of that will add additional elements and give it a gritty, grainy look. There's software out there that destroys pictures, that puts in weird artifacts that look almost as if the camera's defective. But again, that might serve a purpose, or take take something that combines pictures into little works of art. So with photography, editing, the basics, I touch them almost all the time. The exposure, contrast, saturation. Go by your gut. There's nothing wrong with playing with these sliders. And then the other ones, hey, go wild. Photography is such a wide field, and there's so much fun to be had with photography.
You don't mind the complaint sometimes I see that, oh, you've over-edited it. You're making a painting. A photograph should reflect reality.
You know what? I was that way. I changed because I mean, I'm not a fan of the super crazy over-editing, but it gets people interested in photography. It gets people to play with photos. It gets people to get engaged in photography. And whatever it takes, play with them and feel good about them. I think that's really the best thing that you can do.
You can be a photojournalist and be reflecting reality as best as you can, but that's not the only way to be a photographer. And sometimes making a work of art is more important than saying this is what I saw. This is what was really there. And that's the fun of it.
Right.
You get to choose. Now, we are doing a photo assignment, clear, right? So you want to
it's clear.
Take a picture illustrating the word or concept clear, upload it to Flickr, actually submit it to our Tech Guy group, and do, if you will, tag it TG Clear so Renee Silverman, our moderator, knows it's a submission. And next week or the week after, next couple of weeks, we're going to review these and pick a few. It's not a contest, just an excuse to get out there and take pictures. Chris Marquardt, our favorite photographer, sensei.photo, and don't forget his podcast, Tips from the Top Floor. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
You get to do what you want. That's the point. It's your art. So a question from Keyframe. Do you keep a copy of your unaltered originals?
Yes. And by the way, if you do this in something like Apple Photos, that will do it for you. It will keep
it saves it.
The original, and you have a revert button that you can always go back to your original.
That's actually one argument for Lightroom, is it does everything kind of in a reversible history so that you can...
Non-destructively.
It's non-destructive. And there's a lot to be said for that. That actually, I really like that about Lightroom.
Oh, it's peace of mind. It's so much peace of mind, and I've shot over the goal in a lot of pictures, and then went back and went like, "Oops, that was a bit too much."
You can
get lost in the editing.
You can see the history, and you can go back through the history of your edits, which is, I think, a nice.
You can
feature.
also, with something like Lightroom, you can also do snapshots, so you can have like a given state in between, and then you can go crazy and go, the last half hour was too much. Just go back to whatever you did half an hour ago.
Yeah. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. Nick is next from Anaheim, California. Hi, Nick.
Hey, thank you for calling, for taking the call.
Of course. Thank you for calling.
I need your help, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I was not aware of the birthday business, but do a happy birthday.
I'd prefer not to be aware of it myself. But
well,
thank you.
You know what, my friend? You're just a puppy. Don't worry about it.
My wife says, hey, consider the alternative. It beats the alternative. Yes, I'm glad to be celebrating another year around the sun. Even though I'd prefer not to think of how many numbers around the sun, how many times. What can I do for you today, sir?
Well, I got two little minor problems, but they're a pain. Both of them are Dell laptops. The newer one is a Dell Inspiron with Windows 10 and Office 365. I'm a big believer in keeping my own software. I would like to install Office 19. Can I do it without a problem? And can I just install it, or do I have to remove software for 365 or what?
That's interesting. So Microsoft now sells Office in two different ways. They sell the Office 365, now called Microsoft 365 subscription, that automatically is updated forever. And that's what they really want you to do. But you can get what they call the perpetual license, where you buy, like the old days, you buy a box of software, although these days it's not in a box, and you install it, and that's that. And you get updates until, the next version comes out, and then you're frozen. And it really is the case, especially with Office. There's not a lot more to do, right? I mean, it's been done for years. So Microsoft's updates are usually, cosmetic or maybe a little feature here or there, but generally speaking, not worth, writing home for. But they price it. They're smart. They price the subscription in such a way that it kind of is a better deal than the big expensive, what is it, $300 to buy the perpetual license. And it's $8 or $9 to get the, home version of the Microsoft 365. So a month. So, they make it so it's around 3 years trade-off. You should not have any problem. You will want to uninstall, I would think you will want to uninstall Microsoft 365, start from scratch. But there should be no reason why you can't install Office 2019 and just use the perpetual forever. Yeah. Yeah.
The other one is a Dell Vostro, and it's an old one, 2009, still running fine. On that, I have Office 2010 Professional. I'd like.
Wow. Those were the days.
It's on its third hard drive. Okay, I got a terabyte drive in that one, and it's still working.
You must have installed that with a CD or something. That's like.
Well, no, I have a CD on that.
Yeah.
I can buy Office 2016 Professional with CD. I've been having trouble with 2010 locking up on me, and
well, there's an argument, for updating. Yeah. I'm going to put in the show notes a Microsoft note about. I don't think they recommend 2010 anymore, but I will put in the show notes an article about how to install 2019 safely. That you probably should go through their steps.
According to what I've seen, 2019 won't run on Windows 7.
Yeah. So that's why you want to do 2010. Yeah.
No. I've had 2010 since I bought the machine.
Right.
But no, 2016 is the last one that I found that will run on Windows 7 Service Pack 1.
Yeah, and as people are saying in the chat room, anything from 2016 and older is already end of life. In other words, not getting security patches. How important is that? That's a good question. I mean, security patches are certainly important for anything that goes online. If you're using Outlook, you probably do want those security patches. Do you use Outlook for email?
No, I'm using Firefox.
So you're just using basically Word or Excel and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably, the only exploits would be if somebody sent you an attachment that was a Word document or Excel document that had malware in it, bad macros or something in it. You be a little careful about the attachments you get, but there's no reason not to use an out-of-date version of those.
If I get an email and I don't know you, I don't even open the email.
Yeah, I'd be just in general attachments, whether they come from someone you know or not, always risky. So you always want to be careful. They have certainly since 2010 added a lot of code to scan those attachments. In many cases, they've disabled the ability to open those attachments if they have macros, things like that, to protect you, because there certainly are Office file viruses. They still are around. So security is somewhat important, but you can really fix that by not using any of the apps that go online like Outlook, and B, not accepting attachments of Office files. You just say, look, if you're going to send me an Office file, send me text or something. Don't send me the Office file. Yeah. So I think you're probably all right. I don't know why 2010 is getting rocky. It may be that there are incompatibilities with more modern operating systems. You're using 7 everywhere, or only on the older Inspiron?
Only on the old guy.
Okay. Yeah, eventually you're going to... 7 is also end of life, which means you're not getting patches for that. That is a machine you really don't want to take online.
Yeah, but by the way, I have out in the garage an original, honest to God, I bought it originally, 1985-86 version of IBM PC.
Oh, nice.
With a dual 5.5.
The old beige box. You are an antiquarian, my friend.
Now, wait a minute. And it's got a Princeton Graphics color monitor.
I remember, yes.
How much is it worth?
Nothing. It's a sentimental value.
I didn't expect it to be worth that much.
You can always, if you ever want to know, go search on eBay for those things and see. And sometimes you get surprised. There are people like you who are kind of nostalgic, who maybe want to collect that. We had an employee who he was a Windows user, but for some reason loved old Macintosh stuff and collected old Macintosh stuff. I'm going to be frank with you. You have a preference. I understand your preference. I would strongly encourage people not to do what you're doing, but instead use the latest version of hardware and software that you can afford, because security, simple, security is an issue. And if you've got older hardware and it won't run anything more modern than Windows 7, put Linux on it, put an up-to-date version of Linux on it, run that instead, because it is just risky to go online with unpatched software. The viruses are endemic. It's kind of like analogous to real-world viruses. They're floating around on the internet waiting for machines to infect. The minute you go online with an unpatched machine, and you cannot patch these machines because they're so old, the virus goes, and gets, and without any, you doing anything. You don't have to do anything. It just comes right through comes in through the bathroom window, and there you are. And then that machine can go on and infect other machines. Your whole network could be infected. It's a very risky thing to do. Secondarily, I think Microsoft has quite cleverly priced Microsoft 365, the subscription version of Office, to incent you. I still wonder why people use the perpetual license, to be honest. You get so much for so little with the Office subscription. Yes, you're going to pay monthly for the rest of your life. It's not just for updates. You get to use it on multiple computers. I think in most cases it's 5 systems. You get a terabyte of storage on Microsoft's cloud, OneDrive. There's just so many benefits. And at a couple of bucks a month, $9-10 a month? I think it's as little as $8 a month. That's $96 a year. For under $100 a year, you're getting so much. It's hard to say that it's smart to get the perpetual in any, economically. Maybe just because you're an antiquarian, you like the old stuff, but unless you really have that strong preference, I think it's risky and not worth it. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. Yes, it's Tech Guy time to talk computers, the internet, and home theater and digital photography. We talk about smartphones, of course, smart watches, you bet, augmented reality, virtual reality, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still reach us, but you got to use Skype out or something like that. Shouldn't cost you anything anyway. 8888 Ask Leo. Stuff from the show goes up on the show notes, links, answers, things like that at techguylabs.com. That's free. There's no sign up. techguylabs.com. And this is episode 1848. So you can go right to that episode. And then it's divided up into hours 1, 2, and 3. We're in hour 3. Segments 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're in segment 1. You can find what you want. There's also audio and video from the show after the fact. techguylabs.com. Now, let's see here. Andrew's next from Ventura, California. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there.
Hey,
First
welcome.
of all, happy birthday coming up.
Thank you, sir.
It sounds like you have so much fun, being on hold and you're talking to yourself and singing and everything. It sounds like you're actually enjoying doing this job.
I know. I really pulled the wool over your eyes, didn't I, huh? Don't tell the boss.
What a pleasure.
Thank you.
So,
I am not completely talking to myself, by the way. I know I sound crazy, but there is a chat room. There are people watching. There's a live stream. It's a podcast. So I know it sounds like I'm nuts, but I'm pretending anyway. There's somebody listening. What can I do for you?
It's a good nut. First of all, does anybody know the name? Back about 45, 50 years ago, I used to go to the Tappan Zee restaurant with my family.
Oh.
And I wonder what it's called nowadays because I was trying to look it up.
It's probably not the Cuomo restaurant, the Mario J. Cuomo governor restaurant. Yeah. Tappan Zee restaurant. Well, we have a lot, as you can tell, we have a lot of listeners in Jersey. Maybe they can help us out here.
If somebody comes up with that, I'd love to know.
Yeah.
Microsoft Office, by the way, what do they do that's different? They just move stuff around in the menus, so it's hard.
I think so. What can you do? A word processor, there's not a lot of new things you can do in a word processor. So.
Sure there is. There's a new kind of bold, underline, and italic. So here's my question of the day.
Yes.
It is time to buy a VR system. What is the difference and pros and cons about the Oculus versus the HTC Vive and the Pro and the Pro 2? And for a computer, should I build myself a...
Oh, man.
Or should I go for a laptop?
So, if you're just getting started in VR, I like the Oculus.
HTC before, they're great.
Oh, you have done the HTC. Okay. So for newbies, the Oculus Quest is the lowest cost, and it doesn't require an expensive gaming machine to run. The negative on all of the Oculus stuff is you must have a Facebook account, and you must sign into your Facebook account to use it. And be careful because
take care of that.
Yeah, right. That's why I don't have one. And I think it's risky because I've seen stories of people whose Facebook account has been terminated by Facebook who can no longer use their devices. So that's a terrible idea. Just another reason, if you ask me, to really hate Facebook. So while the Oculus Quest is a great price and it's a great device, if you're not a happy Facebook user who's never going to lose your account, it's probably not the best. We also have at home the HTC Vive. I've been very happy with that. The big difference is the games you can play. I think in terms of hardware, they're similar. But as you know, everything but the Quest, you have to build a computer to go with it. And it has to be a fairly hefty computer with a good discrete graphics processor, things like that. So before you buy, you should certainly look at the requirements.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, Costco sold a package.
Right.
Computer, headset, everything.
Right.
And that's how I got into it.
Yeah. I don't know what, I have the original HTC Vive. I don't know what they're saying on the Pro or the Flow. I don't, you probably, I would think before you buy, would really want to look at what it says the minimal PC would need to be. Generally speaking, any gaming machine is going to be fine. If you can play high-end games on it, that's all you're really doing. It's just driving the screen in the headset instead of driving the screen on your monitor. So, I think what you're looking for in a headset, first of all, look at the games available. So the HTC uses the Valve store, and the Oculus has its own store. I think they use Steam as well. So you're going to want to check to see if the software you want is available on the platform you want. And then the second thing that you should absolutely look at is the specs of the device. Higher res screens is better because, as you know, you had one. you're right up. You're 2 inches away from that screen. If the screen resolution is too low, you can see the pixels. It looks like you're looking through a screen door at everything, and that's what the early VR stuff looked like, and that's not a great thing. I have to say, I would normally love to have the Quest, and we reviewed it here, and people really liked it. But because of this requirement for Facebook, I have not used a Quest 2 in the, since it came out. The Vive we have is older. I haven't upgraded because I'm not a VR fan. There's something about it. Our 19-year-old loves it. He and his friends play it all the time. And I suppose it's
wonderful.
Yeah. What do you like to do? What do you do?
747.
Yeah.
From Burbank to LAX, and I only blew one tire.
All right. Is that Flight Sim? What are you using to do that?
I don't recall. It's been about 2 years since I played with it, but it was incredibly awesome. And
you don't you're not nauseated by the experience.
Oh, not at all. I love to get on top of the building and walk out the boardwalk and see what happens if you fall down 30 stories. It's
amazing, isn't it? If you stand on the edge of a tall building in virtual reality, your whole body will act as if you're about to fall. It does. It really tricks your mind. It's scary. For me, and I think for about 10 to 20% of people who use these things, after a period of time, 15, 20 minutes, you start getting nauseated. And for those people, they call it, virtual motion sickness. And for those people, it's intractable. It's not going to get better. It's just the way it is. And so it's probably the reason I'm not too into these things. I don't like getting queasy.
I've seen at least 2 different people actually run into the wall because they were chasing something, and it was so real.
It's very real.
Playing.
Newer ones, I guess your older one doesn't have this. Newer ones have a wireframe of the things around you, so you kind of know that there's a chair there, don't go there, but you really do want a clear space, and you do want to kind of get used to the idea that you can't actually run over to that guy who's shooting at you. You have to be careful. I think there's a lot of promise in this. I'm looking forward to see where we go with it. But for me, I guess maybe it'll always be something a little out of reach.
Well, the Vive is so great. I mean, you helped me right away. Oculus, Facebook. I knew there was a reason.
Yeah.
Done with that.
Isn't that annoying? Now, they say maybe because they're Meta, they're going to do a Meta account. And I don't want to deal with those guys at all, period.
No, I think they've meted their match.
They've meted their match. And it is us. So, yeah, go with the Vive. I think those are the 2. There's other companies making these, but I think Vive is probably the other good choice.
Now there's the Pro and the Pro 2.
Yeah, there's a lot. They've got the Focus
or the Office or something.
Yeah. You don't want the ones that are designed for use in productivity. You want one that's for fun. You're not going to do designing jet engines or conferences and stuff. You want one that's designed for games. So I think the Pro is probably the way to go. And then just depending on your resources, how much you can spend, And you don't. What happened? You don't have a gaming computer now?
No.
Yeah, all right. So
I'm not a big gamer. Not a gamer at all, actually. Yeah. Even though I was a programmer in a gaming company.
Oh, that's funny. It burned you out, Andrew. So you're talking for the Pro 2 complete kit, $1,400, and then about the same for a gaming computer. $1,400-$1,500 is the minimum, I think. So you're talking about $3,000 to do this. Happy Christmas.
Half the price.
It'd be a great Hanukkah present. Just stretch it out over all the days, a little bit at a time.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this time of year to kick in on that.
Yeah. I don't see Black Friday deals on these either. That's interesting. Let me see what they're charging at Amazon.
And then it comes with a 2-month all-you-can-eat game downloads.
That's nice because you will eat those games. You will eat quite a few of those games. Yeah, don't forget, it's another $60 per game. My kid loves Beat Saber. That's a fun one because you're very active with it. It's kind of like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, but you're using a saber to play the instrument, and you have to dance with it. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Good exercise, too.
Yeah, and you get some exercise. Hey, I got to run. Good to talk to you, Andrew. Have a happy holiday. Enjoy your new VR system. I'd say, go with what you can afford, obviously. The other thing, though, to note is that we are in this is early stages for all this stuff. And things are going to improve you remember the early days of computing every year, your computer was, people used to complain, my computer's obsolete the day I take it home. Remember that? Every year there's a major advance in computers. That hasn't happened in quite a while. At least 5 years. A 5-year-old computer now is not much slower than a current computer. Well, we're like in that stage with VR. Maybe even earlier than that. Big advances, big changes. And unfortunately, I think the market is a little stalled out. And so that's not good because that means companies are going to be trying to make these and make money on them, but they don't have a giant market for it. It starts to hinder the advances. So I don't know what I'd recommend these days. Probably the Vive. Read the reviews. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. You can call, tell us what you think of VR. I'm the wrong guy to ask. It just makes me a little queasy. So this sound of which you refer, Mr. Pyle.
Yes, sir.
Let me just play what we've got and make sure we're in the right track here.
Sounds like somebody's eating Cracker Jacks underwater.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's not very sensational for all the money we spent getting there, I had hoped when they launched this, we're going to hear, whistling wind across a bleak plain, but what you get is not that. Yeah, it's not quite.
Instead, we're hearing
it's still
Cracker
cool.
Jacks. Yeah.
So I wanted to spend just a little bit of time on that because there's not a ton of news. They got another sample.
Well, what about the Dart? What about Dart?
That's really what I was looking forward to do today. Yeah. There's no sound from Dart, but what a cool thing.
Yeah, I think Dart's
interesting. Did you see the launch perchance?
I didn't. I hear the people in Southern California are able to just go out the house and see it.
Yeah, I was down in San Diego and I ran out. I went, and it was a couple minutes late and nothing.
Nothing.
But I think if you got out at the right time, from what I've seen, you saw it actually. Hey, somebody dropped the kitchenware.
It's kind of cool though. That's from Mars.
Yeah. That's the wheels we're hearing.
What I'd like to have is what it sounds like. What it sounded like before they mailed it, just to know, compare it.
Yeah. Well, and it would be fun to have the same recording from the same microphones.
That's what I mean.
From the Mars yard at JPL.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we know, what we're hearing.
Right, right.
Somebody says, Dwindle in the chat room says, sounds like a bowling ball return. It does kind of.
Or gravel coming down your
setting up
rain,
the pins.
Rain pipe. Yeah.
All right, we'll be with you at about 10. Thank you, Mr. P.
Thanks.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There are people who, my wife is one of them, who think that every birthday should be celebrated like a national holiday. It's like a big deal. And then there are people like me. In fact, I would think this might be the only real conflict in our marriage. Maybe how you should put the silverware in the dishwasher, although I've given up on that one. But she thinks every birthday is, you got to have fireworks. I'm like, please, it's just another day. I just don't even mention it, especially as I get older. Don't even mention it. Stop it. John's on the line from Indiana. Hello, John.
Hello, Leo, long-time listener.
Thank you. Great to have you. What can I do for you?
Yes, I'm interested in procuring a Mac Mini M1 chip, and I'd like to know your advice. I'd like, a good setup with a monitor. What would you recommend, sir?
Oh, this is one of the things I like about the Mac Mini is you get to choose your keyboard, mouse, and monitor. You can obviously use the Apple keyboard and mouse, but it doesn't come with a monitor, and you get to choose, and that means you have all sorts of wonderful choices. One thing I should mention about the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini is last year's Mac Mini. It is widely expected, although, again, Apple makes no advance announcements, that they will announce a Pro higher-end Mac Mini this next coming year. Probably, I'm guessing, in the spring. So that's fine. And then the new M1 is great. The new Pro, if they do offer one, will be more expensive. But I just wanted to warn you ahead of time. If power is what you're looking for, I think the most powerful Apple desktops are still to come. However, I would look at what are you going to do with your Mac Mini?
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I delve in photography. I got some negatives, and now I got a digital camera and an iPhone. So I like to put them on the digitize the negatives that I have, and this is photography. And it'll be a dual-use machine. Can that happen?
Sure. You can have multiple logins. Your kids can have a login or friends or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, first of all, I would say get a 16. You cannot upgrade the memory on any of these current M1s. So get the one with the most memory. That's 16 gigs. So that's going to add a couple of $100 to the price. But you do need to do that. Storage is another question. Normally, I would say you don't need to go crazy on storage because you can connect an external drive to add capacity. And so maybe if you're willing to do that, that's the way to go, because storage is fairly expensive on the minis. It'll be $200. It starts with 512 gigs. It's a little light. I bought the 512 gig MacBook Pro 14-inch, and I do photography on it, but I just have to be careful. I can't put all my photos on it. I have to put the most recent batch and then offload photos as I go. If you don't mind doing that, 512 is probably plenty. If you want to have more storage, or whoever else is using the computer, they're going to have their own storage too. Maybe go for the terabyte drive. That's an additional $200. So now we've added 400. You don't need anything else with it. I think that's probably the base you should get. So now we're talking about $12.99. Now monitor is another question. Because you're a photographer, accuracy is important. So I would say you could probably go with a Dell. They make inexpensive but very good monitors. Apple's monitors, well, first of all, Apple doesn't make monitors anymore, but the monitors Apple sells are very, very expensive. Dell has two grades of monitors, and I would suggest the higher grade quality monitors because you want accuracy, right? That's the most important thing to you. But I think even then, Dell monitors are a great deal. So, especially now because it's Black Friday, you like a big monitor? I'm thinking you do.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Do you want more than one? It's a little tricky for the M1 to drive more than two monitors. My suggestion generally is to get a big single monitor. You're more productive than two smaller monitors. So instead of getting, say, two 27-inch monitors, get maybe my wife has a 49-inch, which is the equivalent of two together. That's awfully big and crazy, but they do sell those, and I think you get a great result. Probably I would say the 32 or 34-inch curved monitors from Dell give you a lot of screen real estate. Make sure you get the higher end one, not the lower end one. That'll be a little bit more expensive, but the quality will be better. And you want absolutely the most accurate color reproduction. So I think those Dells are very affordable. Dell does have a display, a $5,000 display. Do not, under any circumstances, get that. That's just way too expensive. So enjoy. I think you got a good present for yourself. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, I'm so glad to have these guys as a sponsor. This is a much-needed service, especially now, during, what has been a fairly shaky couple of years. I'm talking about BetterHelp. BetterHelp lets you take charge of your mental health with licensed professional therapists available for you for a very affordable price. There's no shame in seeking help. I've done it many times. There's all sorts of reasons you might want to see a professional counselor. But there's reasons not to, unfortunately. Cost, shyness, embarrassment, not wanting to go and sit in a waiting room. BetterHelp takes all of that out. There's nothing to prevent you from achieving your goals, from having your best life, to being happy again. And this is a great way to do it. The sign-up process couldn't be easier. What's great about BetterHelp is they have a broad variety of therapists in a lot of different areas. And so one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to try and don't be ashamed or shy of saying, you're not for me. Thank you. Therapists understand this. They encourage it. Their feelings will not be hurt. And with BetterHelp, you have many, many choices in a lot of different areas, so you can find somebody who's right for you. You need to find somebody you can talk to who will understand you. Sometimes for women, they want another woman. Sometimes it's better to have a man. You get to choose what you want. And don't be shy to say, no, you're not for me. And BetterHelp makes that very easy. BetterHelp will assess your needs, match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You'll connect in a safe and private online environment. And it's only going to take a couple of days for you to get some help. And often it's, if you don't put it off, but sometimes it's an emergency, and it's nice to know you can get that help quickly. Now, I'm not saying it's a crisis line. It's not. For that, there are good places to go. This is not a crisis line. This is not self-help. You're going to be working with a professional counselor. It's done securely online. What's great is, and this is one of the things I really like about BetterHelp, it's not 50 minutes and your time is up, bye-bye, see you next week. You can message your counselor anytime. They're very open to that. I thought that was really great. You get timely and thoughtful responses. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. Sometimes people don't want the video. They just want to do the phone. Sometimes I like having the video. It's up to you. And you never have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. You never have to be embarrassed. It's a chance to really get the help you need in a timely, effective way. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches. They make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. That's really, to me, that was kind of like one of the number one things I was looking for. Because you want to find somebody who matches you. Somebody who's not going to, okay, this is weird, but somebody who's not going to take your line of BS. Somebody who's going to call you on your stuff, but do it in a way that you can handle, right? Somebody who you can talk to, somebody who's as smart as you, somebody who won't let you, trick them, that kind of thing. It's really a great way to do this. It's much more affordable than traditional offline counseling. They even have financial aid. There's really no reason not to get the help you want. And it's available worldwide, which is good because our audience is worldwide. You can find the particular expertise you need online. You don't have to limit yourself to counselors in your area, right? Which means there's a much broader range of counselors. And because times have been tough lately, they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states right now. So if you're a licensed therapist, you might want to contact BetterHelp as well. This is great for therapists, too. They can make it work with their schedule. Therapists love it. At least the ones I've talked to really like it. You'll find licensed professional counselors who specialize in any issues going on with you. Just depression, stress. Who's not going through stress right now? Anxiety, help with your relationships, with sleeping, with trauma and anger and family conflicts. Boy, this is the time of year. In fact, I wish I'd told you about this before Thanksgiving. You probably could have used it, but it's not too late. LGBT matters, grief, self-esteem. There's something there for anybody with any issue. And it's so nice to talk to somebody who's understanding, who can help you, who can make a difference. And it really does work. Anything you share, of course, is confidential. It's very convenient because it's online or by phone. It's professional. These are all licensed therapists, and it's affordable. Check out the testimonials. You'll see them right there at BetterHelp. By the way, it's help. So I think sometimes people think it's health. It's help, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/techguy. The testimonials will give you some idea of how people appreciate this. I just want you to start living your best life, to be happier, to be more relaxed, to sleep better, to get rid of that trauma, that PTSD, that BS from your past, and to live happy and healthy. So this is why we're happy to tell you about BetterHelp. You'll get 10% because you're listening off your first month. Go to BetterHelp.com/techguy. BetterHelp.com/techguy. 1 million people now have used BetterHelp to take charge of their mental health. I think that's great. I think the world's changing. It used to be very stigmatized. Remember in The Sopranos, Tony Soprano at the beginning, he's like, I can't go to a therapist. They got crazy. But he did, and you know what? He got a lot out of it. I think that The Sopranos did a lot for psychotherapy. BetterHelp, HELP, BetterHelp.com. TechGuy. This is, I think, a really great service, and I'm really glad to share this during this difficult time. BetterHelp.com/TechGuy, 10% off. Thank you, BetterHelp, for the job you do. Thank you, TechGuy listeners, for using that address so they know you saw it here. BetterHelp.com/TechGuy. Now, back to the show we go. It's time for Spaceman Rod Pyle, who is apparently floating over a bunch of rocks. Is that the moon?
That's the moon in high def.
It doesn't look like Swiss cheese, but it is cheesy.
Cold, nasty rocks that apparently smell like gunpowder, according to Buzz Aldrin.
Isn't that interesting?
When they grabbed the first bunch of samples into the LEM, he said, Neil, do you smell that? It smells like gunpowder. He said, yeah, it sure does. Burnt gunpowder.
Actually, that's one of my favorite smells. I love the smell of cordite in the morning. So, Rod Pyle, author Space 2.0, first on the moon, which, by the way, if you were a fan, I am for sure, of Apollo 11 and Neil and Buzz and Michael, that book is a great picture book suitable for your coffee table, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing. He's also editor-in-chief of Ad Astra magazine from the National Space Society. You can find out more about that at space.nss.org. Now, today we are going to Mars. I promised everybody a visit to Mars.
Good man.
Tell me how we do this.
And you're looking for Mars. Okay, so we're going to come up with a sound of Mars for you in a few seconds. Do you want to hear that?
The sound?
Sure.
Explain what we're going to hear first.
So Perseverance, they had tried to send microphones on Mars Polar Lander with the Planetary Society and NASA, but that didn't make it to the surface. That had a malady. So they managed to interpret some sonic signatures of wind rushing past the InSight lander and kind of synthesize what wind sounded like on Mars years ago.
Yeah.
But these are the first real microphones that have worked on the surface on the Perseverance rover. And they're off-the-shelf technology. This isn't some $500,000 NASA purchase. These are from a company called DPA. It's the 4006 Omni mic, one on the side of the rover chassis and one up on the laser cam.
So this is the sound of the Mars rover doing what?
Crunching over rocks and soil
on the Tappan Zee Bridge,
or aluminum wheels. Sorry, titanium wheels.
Titanium wheels.
Here we come
over rocks, ladies and gentlemen.
We bring you
the sound of Mars. It's a little bumpy out there.
Yeah, kind of sounds like somebody dragging a manhole cover over the sidewalk, doesn't it?
Wow.
But, it does give you an idea of, even in reduced gravity, what the rover's up against with those rocks, right? Yeah. I mean, these are metal wheels, and they're going over sharp, jagged rocks, and they're improved over Curiosity, so they're not getting torn up.
So we're not hearing like wind.
Yeah, and when you do hear wind, it just sounds like what you'd expect. It's like some guy blowing on his mic.
It's not a strong wind up there.
Yeah. Well, the atmosphere is only about 1% of Earth's. What's interesting is the sound. So they also recorded the helicopter flying, which sounds like nothing special. And they recorded, because they've got a microphone up on the SuperCam, which is the one that shoots a laser at a rock up to about 25 feet away and then reads the spectra from the burned part of the rock.
Yeah.
They were able to record the zapping of that camera, and get this, the sound return from that zap when it hits the rock helps tell them its mass and its elemental composition.
Amazing. Science. Wow.
How do you even, that's like science beyond science, right?
Wow.
And for an off-the-shelf mic unit that probably costs, I don't know, a couple $1,000 max, this ain't bad. And they're up in this really horrible environment. What they did say, though, is that sound prop, especially with the Ingenuity helicopter recording, they said, what's weird about this is we didn't expect it to sound this way. It sounds like it's underwater, which you'd expect from a denser medium like the ocean. But they didn't really expect it to sound that way on Mars with this very low atmospheric pressure. So go figure.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Surprises.
Yeah.
And that's good science.
Meanwhile,
you get more questions, you get answers. Meanwhile,
Ben Affleck is on his way to blow an asteroid off course.
Oh, those horrible movies. So last week from Vandenberg Space Force Base, we have to get used to calling it that now, instead of Air Force Base, was launched on a Falcon 9. the DART mission.
Now this is a test. This is not actually an asteroid that's going to hit us.
Right. So
we just want to see what'll happen.
Asteroid redirection test. So they picked this near Earth approaching asteroid that is not a threat called Didymos. And
I hear the launch was spectacular. I did not see it, but a lot of people in Southern California, I've seen some pictures. It really was beautiful.
It was cool. I've seen better SpaceX launches out of Vandenberg that left a little earlier in the evening, so they caught a bit more sunlight. But I guess it was pretty good. I didn't see it because I was down at the boat. But so that's its own reward. But yeah, so the launch looked good, and the idea is we got this asteroid that makes this close approach to Earth called Didymos, which is about 2,500 feet across, and it's being circled by a little asteroidlet called Dimorphos, or cutely Didymoon, which is about 520 feet across.
Didymos and Didymoon. Okay, good.
Right? Yeah. And so because we're worried about in the future close approaching asteroids actually grazing or hitting Earth, even if it just grazes the atmosphere, it can cause problems, but an impact, of course, is a big no-no. And remember that one in Chelyabinsk was only about 60 feet, so you can imagine.
It's happened before. In fact, some people hypothesize that's what happened to the dinosaurs. So they're pretty sure. Yeah, we don't want this happening. No.
So this is just the first step. So we're taking about a 2,200-pound spacecraft and slamming it into Didymoon at a tangential angle. Now, the Europeans
no nukes in this thing. This is not a nuclear.
No nukes. This is just a kinetic whack. It's like an artillery shell with no explosives, like a cannonball.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a politically difficult question. Did they conceive of this before or after Ben Affleck did it?
After, thank God.
Well, but that worries me. Like they were influenced by the movies. Saying this is how you would defend yourself against an asteroid.
Well, actually, the Russians were the ones that have come out since that movie and said, yeah, we have a lot of nukes. You know, if this happens, we got tons of warheads. We can shoot those.
No, don't you? Well, first of all, it takes a while. You got to plan ahead. How long to get to Didymos?
About a year.
A year.
Now, the good thing about a nuke, though, is you don't really want to blow up the rock, and it's hard to do anyway. It takes a lot more explosive power.
That's a bad idea. You just want to
But you can knock it off course.
That's what you want to do.
So what they're doing with this impactor, they just want to change this thing's orbit by a matter of seconds, right? That'll lower it down close to the asteroid, less energy. And they were going to send a European probe along to measure that, but that program got canned, as so often happens. So they're going to measure it with telescopic observations. And then in 2027, the Europeans are sending a probe up called Hera, which is going to take a peek and see how much it's changed over the intervening few years. So it's the initial impact should change the orbit of Didymoon. I'm just going to call it that because it's so cute. By about 1/10 of an inch per second, but that adds up over time. So, there's a really small impact, and a hat will have a small impact on Didymoon, if you will. But if you scale up the idea, so this is kind of like if you're into model trains, this is the HO gauge version of this whole thing, right? Compared to a real train. But if you do this in the future with a larger mass or an explosive or some other way of redirecting this asteroid just a tiny bit, if you find it soon enough when it's far away, now you've got something and you save the Earth. And
Bruce Willis does not have to die for us.
If only. I don't know if you saw his last couple of movies.
No, I didn't. No,
there was one I saw that was produced in China with Chinese money about the Flying Tiger era. And I mean, it was just clear he was just strolling through the lines,
just
kind of spitting them out.
You know, I love Bruce. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy, but just give him a decent script.
Give him a good movie, please, folks. Good. So we'll talk to you in a year. See what happens. It's not possible that it'll deflect it into our orbit or anything.
No,
like that.
They've been very careful.
Okay.
A, it's a very small effect. B, they've made sure this one's coming nowhere near Earth.
That's a relief.
But there are about 25,000 large asteroids out there that could. So we want to make sure.
Good to be prepared, like the Boy Scouts. At Astra Magazine, space.nss.org. Thank you, Rod Pyle.
Thank you, sir. So you had a timely discussion this week
about
about the Oculus Quest 2, which made its way into my home yesterday when my girlfriend received hers, and she's
How do you like it?
Downstairs playing, what is it called? Lightsaber?
Beat Saber, yeah.
Beat Saber, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
You know, she likes games and action things. I like more experiential stuff.
What is she, 12?
53, but who's counting? She's younger than me. Everybody's younger than us. Oh, by the way, happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
You get to do it again.
Medicare starts. Yes, I'm so excited.
Are you only turning 65?
65. Are you older than me?
You child. I'm months older than you.
Months older.
I turned 65 in September.
Months older. Wow, we're really close. I didn't realize how close in age we are.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I don't want to celebrate my 65th. What did you pretend it didn't happen?
I just kind of quietly sobbed. No, actually, what I always do is I think every month I'm a couple years older than I am. So when it gets there, it doesn't sting.
Oh, that's smart. Right? So I should pretend I'm getting 68.
It's the power of simulation, like they did through Apollo, right? You simulate the emergency enough times, then when you get to that hideous birthday, you go. The problem is, we're old enough to get Medicare, but we're not old enough to get Social Security, right?
Well, we could, but we don't want to. We want to put it off to maximize. Yeah. And since you and I are both still working, there's really no reason to start taking.
Yeah, because I'll just grab a bunch of it anyway.
Yeah.
But so she gets this Quest set, and there's a VR experience that's been out for years called Discovering Space 2, which is this wonderful. It's just a flight simulator to the planets.
Yeah.
But it requires the full rig. So you got to have a Rift or what's the other? The Vive.
Because the Quest has its own processor. So it's really more like a smartphone.
But you can apparently link it up with a cable and allow it to access.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, good. Okay.
But then I got to go out and spend, what were you saying, $2,000 on a computer to drive it?
$1,500 I would say is the minimum for a good VR rig.
So I'm always, of course, looking at the low end because I'm cheap. So look at it.
Well, look at the specs.
Cyber power and stuff like that.
Look at the specs, and you might be able to get away with, $1,000 system. The thing is, anything you get to do that will also be a good gaming machine. So it'll be a decent computer.
A, I don't game, and B, I despise Windows. So,
yeah, you have to run Windows. Yeah.
Yeah, and does it ever just set up out of the box for VR, or do you have to fiddle with it quite a bit?
Well, I don't know what it's like these days, but boy, it was a lot of work before.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to do that again. In fact, we gave away the Oculus because I didn't want to do it again.
Rubbing your face in pain. I'm reliving the PTSD of
all for something that'll just make me sick. Not good.
Yeah.
I don't get that sick. And I have to say, the first time I was doing it, I was blown away. I thought, this is really amazing. I totally get it. But I don't know it's the staying power. And I noticed, by the way, Michael doesn't use it quite as much. It's not his go-to. I think, a good gaming system with a big enough screen is pretty immersive. And without getting nauseous. Although I still get nauseated if I play Valheim for more than 5 or 6 hours at a time. So it's probably better not to do that.
I'm sorry, you just said 5 or 6 hours?
Yeah, easy.
At a time?
Easy. What is I think I'm like 600 hours into that game, something like that.
I didn't even sleep 5 or 6 hours at a time anymore.
I know.
I don't know how you can do it.
Oh, I have actually gotten up in the middle of the night to play Valheim. Yeah, because I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that comes
and then
with
there's this pain all up and down my side and your knees. Thank you, Rod.
My spleen. Take care, pal.
Bye. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy. Thanks to Big Pee-wee. Damien's in the house, filling in for Professor Laura, our musical director, back in the saddle again. And always a pleasure to have you, Damien, this weekend. And Laura will be back next weekend. But, anytime you want to come visit, you're always welcome, Big Pee-wee. Also, thanks to our phone angel, the wonderful Kim Schaffer, answering your calls. Thanks mostly to you, those of you who listen, those of you who call. I really appreciate it. It would be a silly thing for me to sit here talking to myself. I would do it, but it's better to have other people listen. It's not so crazy looking. 8888, and thank you for the very kind birthday wishes to all of you. We can stop now. 8888 Ask Leo. A few more minutes before we wrap this up. Let's go to Carlsbad, California, and John, who's on the line. Hello, John.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Leo.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling.
I have a business where my crew works outdoors, and I've learned that providing photos on areas I want to do work or how I want it done seems to free me up a lot, because then they have the photos in hand, they go to it. It just gets real expensive to go to CBS and do a 1-hour photo. Is there a portable printing small unit that can plug into my truck and reproduce pictures from my Galaxy 6 phone?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a review from just a few weeks ago in PC Magazine. Tony Hoffman went through all the best portable printers and picked 7 of their favorites. Now, not all of them are appropriate because portable can mean a lot of things. There's a whole category of, remember Polaroid photos, instant photos? There's a whole category of instant photos, even one from Polaroid, that's not, well, it might. I mean, it depends what you're going to print. It might actually be appropriate, but there are specifically printers that you can hook up to a 12-volt, cigarette lighter adapter that will print pretty well. The one that looks the most suitable and does get an excellent rating from PC Magazine is the Brother Pocket Jet. Now, the only negative is it's a thermal printer, so that means it's going to be suitable for black and white printing. The paper's not going to be great, but, so this kind of depends on the quality, but you can actually car mount it. It will work with a 12-volt battery, a cigarette lighter adapter. But I think the best thing, rather than me recommending, because I haven't used any of these, to be honest. Well, actually, I have used a few. We have the Canon Selfie at home. This is one of those Polaroid. This is actually, it might even be the right thing, because the Selfie, S-E-L-P-H-Y, get it, haha, is designed to work with a smartphone. So you pair it to your smartphone. The printouts are good quality because it's essentially a photo printer. So it looks like it's like one of those Polaroid printers. So that is another choice. It is battery powered, which means you probably could leave it out there. But and it looks like it will also work. It might work with a USB connector, so you could get an adapter for your 12-volt to USB that might power it. It's smaller format. The printout is, like I said, it's the size of a Polaroid, but the quality is very good because it uses something called Z-Ink. The Selfie is from Canon. The CP1300 is the one Tony reviewed. I think that's a pretty good one. It's more like a photo printer. So really, again, it's going to depend on what you want to, what images you're printing. If you're taking pictures on the work site of things, that'd be great. It's basically a photo print. If you want to print blueprints, not so good. For that, probably the thermal printer from Brother would be a better choice. Of course, the negative on that is it's $800. The Selfie's only $129. Looks like Canon makes one as well, a wireless portable printer. It's a little bigger than the Brother Pocket Jet, but a lot less expensive. It's only about $200 at Adorama. So I'm going to defer to PC Mag on this. This is one thing the magazines still do better than anybody else. PC Magazine for years famous because it would do these printer reviews where they would get every printer made and go head to head. So they liked the Brother Pocket Jet, but again, $800. I think you should look at some of the other ones. And it's going to really very much vary on what you want to print out. PC Magazine also has a link to Black Friday printer deals. We'll put that in there as well, because this is, at least if you're buying something like that, a good time to do it. Last call of the day from Springfield, Illinois. Hello, Don.
Hey, Don.
No, I'm Leo. You're Don.
So I want to make sure that this guy at the tech place or at the Geek Squad, so I'll give you a line of BS here, because I turned on my Dell laptop with Windows 10 when I came back from vacation, and it says that the version of Windows is almost out of support. So I took it to the guy, and he says that this version of Windows 10 expires on December 14th of this year, and I have to buy a new computer. Otherwise, I won't be sure.
You have to buy a new computer? Wow. No, he's full of it. It is probably true that it expires. So Windows 10 isn't going to expire itself till 2025. But versions, these, remember you get 1808 and 1809, which came out in 2018, September. And then after that, there was 1903. These are the updates. You apparently haven't updated since 1809 because that is expiring. So that's what he's talking about is the update version. All you have to do is run Windows Update. You don't need to buy a new computer.
Okay. So because he's saying the update won't work anymore, my machine's too old.
Well, that's okay. He might not be wrong on that, actually. So that is the case that Microsoft at some point said, yeah, we're not going to continue to update. Let me see which one is expiring this year. Actually, 1809 already expired in the spring. Yeah, it's, let's see, 1903 expired a year ago. So following 1903 would be 1909. Let's see when 1909 expires. Do you know what version you have?
He told me 2004.
Oh, I think you're good for quite a while. That's pretty recent. Let me see when the end of life is for 2004. Oh, yeah, December 14th. Well, first thing to do is go to Windows Update, see if you can get a later version.
Okay.
That would be there are probably some PCs that can't update to that. I'm going to put a link to Microsoft's website where they describe all of this. And I hope it seems silly to have to buy a new computer. I think you should be able to update that. I can't imagine why you wouldn't be able to. And if you do have to buy a new computer, consider putting Linux on it instead, or just living with what you've got. How old is the computer?
It's let's see. I bought it in 2016.
Oh, you're fine. He's just giving you a line. 2016, you're fine. Just update it. Just update it. Wow, that's the most blatant attempt to sell a new computer to somebody who doesn't need one I've ever heard. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, have a great geek week. We'll see you next time. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.